What if the man who spent a decade screaming, "No puppet, no puppet, you're the puppet," has finally become the biggest, whiniest, most uncontrollable puppet of his own rage? A 79-year-old toddler in a red tie who just attacked a Republican state senator's daughter with Down syndrome because daddy wouldn't let him redraw the maps and steal the midterms early? What if the same very stable genius who once mocked a disabled reporter on national television in 2015 has now, in 2025, done it again, this time to a little girl, because an Indiana Republican had the audacity to tell him President Trump no on mid-decade gerrymandering? And what if that single, disgusting, late-night truth social slur just detonated the last remaining shred of loyalty inside the Republican Party, turning a routine redistricting fight into an open revolt that could cost Trump the House before 2026 even begins? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the absolute collapse of Donald Trump's second term, only 11 months in, and it is glorious, it is chaotic, and it is 100% self-inflicted. Let's start with the moment that will be carved on his political tombstone. Friday night, 11:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The rest of America is asleep or scrolling TikTok. Donald Trump, wide awake on his gold-plated toilet or whatever throne he sulks on these days, rage posts this masterpiece of human decency. The Democrats have a seriously retarded governor in Minnesota named Tim Walz, who lets criminals run wild. His wife loves the smell of burning tires. Total loser family. Indiana Republicans better redraw those maps fast, or you'll have more of these morons running everything. Yes, he actually used the R word. Again, on a sitting governor, in an unhinged rant about redistricting. And then, because apparently the algorithm gods have a sense of humor, the post went viral in exactly the wrong zip code. The home district of Indiana State Senator Mike Bohasek, a rock-ribbed Republican whose 12-year-old daughter, Juniper, has Down syndrome. By sunrise Saturday, Bohasek, who had already had deep reservations about Trump's naked power grab to redraw congressional maps 4 years early, posted a response that should be framed in every state capital in America. Mr. President, my daughter Juniper is not a punchline. She is not a prop for your 3 a.m. meltdowns. Until you can prove that your policies and your behavior deserve a congressional majority, you will not have my vote on redistricting. Words have consequences. So will mine. Mic drop. Within hours, 3 other Indiana Republican senators, 2 House members, and, most deliciously, the Senate President pro tem Rod Bray himself, publicly pulled their support from the mid-decade gerrymandering bill. The vote count went from probably passes to dead on arrival in less than 24 hours. All because Donald Trump couldn't stop himself from bullying a child with a disability. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what peak losing looks like. This is what happens when a narcissistic toddler is handed the nuclear codes and the nuclear ego at the same time. He doesn't just shoot himself in the foot. He reloads and keeps firing until both legs are gone. And the best part? This isn't some fringe blue state rebellion. This is Indiana. Trump won the state by 18 points. These are his people turning on him. These are the same Republicans who spent years kissing the ring, defending the very fine people, excusing the bleach injections, and pretending January 6th was just a tourist visit. And now they're saying, yeah, we're done. Because even they have a line. And Donald Trump just pole vaulted over it with a racial slur and a thesaurus full of cruelty. But let's zoom out, because this one disgusting tweet is only the cherry on top of a sundae made entirely of Trump's own feces. In the last 10 days alone, here's what the strongest Republican Party ever has endured under dear leader. Marjorie Taylor Greene quit in a blaze of battered wife metaphors, calling Trump's White House abusive and saying there is no 4D chess. Kevin McCarthy went on national television and called MTG the canary in the coal mine, predicting a wave of retirements. Punchbowl News reported that senior House Republicans are texting reporters. This entire White House team has treated all members like garbage. Morale has never been lower. Thomas Massie, Rand Paul, and half the Freedom Caucus are now openly defying Trump on everything from spending bills to Epstein files. The House overwhelmingly voted to release the Epstein documents, many of which, mention a certain twice-impeached ex-president more than a few times. Trump's handpicked Attorney General Pam Bondi has already lost 3 revenge cases in a row, with 0 wins. His approval rating just hit a record low of 39% in the latest NBC poll, worse than the end of Biden's term. Inflation ticked back up, turkey prices are up 40%, and Americans are angrier about grocery bills than they were under Biden. And now, the crown jewel, his desperate, authoritarian attempt to gerrymander the midterms early is collapsing in red state after red state, because even Republicans are tired of being treated like abused dogs. Texas pulled their bill. Kansas pulled theirs. North Carolina Supreme Court just slapped down their map. And now Indiana, the beating heart of MAGA country, just told Trump to go pound sand because he called a little girl with Down syndrome the R word. This is what losing the mandate of heaven looks like in real time. And Donald Trump's response? The same response he's had since 2015. Double down, lash out, burn it all down. He spent the weekend rage posting about Somalian invaders ruining Minnesota because nothing says unity like stochastic terrorism against refugees, threatening to denaturalize American citizens, starting, one hopes, with Melania, as the internet gleefully reminded him, and promising lawsuits against California that every legal expert says are going nowhere. Meanwhile, the man who once bragged he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody is now hiding at Mar-a-Lago, canceling every public event from Friday to Sunday because he can't face the cameras without melting down like a toddler who dropped his ice cream. The New York Times finally grew a spine and ran the headline. Shorter days, signs of fatigue. Trump faces realities of aging in office. Translation: the guy is falling apart in real time, and everyone can see it except the dead-enders still wearing the red hats. Even Fox News is starting to turn. Brett Baer fact-checked him live on air. Jessica Tarlov called his behavior disqualifying on the 5. Tucker Carlson, yes, that Tucker, went on his podcast and said, "Nothing I voted for happened. Are you happy with anything?" When you've lost Tucker, you've lost America. And let's talk about the Epstein files for a second, because Trump is praying we don't. The same week his party is imploding, the House Oversight Committee accidentally released unredacted documents that include multiple mentions of Donald J. Trump in Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs and phone records. Victims' lawyers are in full-blown panic mode because Republicans couldn't be bothered to redact the survivors' names properly. And Trump's response? Crickets. Or rather, more all-caps screaming about Somalian crime and retarded governors. Classic deflection from a man who knows exactly what's in those files. But back to Indiana, because that's the story that matters. Mike Bohasek didn't just say no to gerrymandering. He said no to the entire Trump pathology. The bullying, the cruelty, the racism, the endless grievance, the toddler tantrums disguised as leadership. And he's not alone. Across the country, Republican state legislators are quietly pulling bills, canceling hearings, and telling Trump's henchmen, Mike Johnson included, to kick rocks. Because they can read polls. They can see the Marquette Law Survey showing Democrats with a 9-point turnout advantage. They can see the early resignations, the morale collapse, the tinderbox texts from senior members. They know 2026 is going to be a bloodbath. And they're not willing to chain themselves to a sinking orange Titanic just to give Donald Trump 2 extra House seats he'll lose anyway when the subpoenas start flying. This is what the end looks like. Not with a bang, not with impeachment, because the cowards in Congress are too scared, but with a whimper, 1,000 quiet no votes from Republicans who finally realize they hitched their wagon to a black hole of need and rage that consumes everything it touches. Donald Trump is not a strongman. He never was. He's a weak man's idea of a strongman. A bully who folds the second someone stands up to him. A coward who attacks children when adults say no. A grifter who sold his followers a golden age and delivered a gilded nursing home tantrum. And now, even the people who spent years defending him are walking away. Marjorie Taylor Greene called it an abusive marriage and left. Mike Bohasek just put the entire Republican Party in timeout until the toddler learns to use his words. And the rest of us? We get to watch the most spectacular self-destruction in American political history play out in real time. So pop the popcorn, charge your phones, and keep your eyes on the screen. Because the Trump meltdown isn't coming. It's here. And it's only going to get louder, uglier, and more pathetic from here. See you at the midterms, Donnie. Bring a helmet. You're going to need it.